In the past 2 weeks, we've seen Ukraine strike a ton of Russian air defenses. We're talking about S-300s and S-400s, their radars, all of the little systems that come along with it. But you're probably asking yourself, why? Why is Ukraine going after these now, and what is the future? And I figured, let's talk about this in just a quick little video because it's simple. F-16s. It's no secret that Ukraine needs, as Zelensky says, 150 F-16s or other fighter jets in order to really push back the Russians. And while they're not going to get that number, we do know they are going to start getting some very shortly. Denmark and the Netherlands already announced that in early summer, which we're pretty much assuming that it's going to be in the next few weeks or within the next month, they're going to be getting some of their F-16s. Not all of them. It's slow. Training is taking a little bit of a while. And there's a couple of other obstacles kind of in the way. But there's been so much news for F-16s in just the past 2 weeks that it definitely begs the question, when are we finally going to get them? But we have to take a step back and remember that there was a ton of conditions Ukraine had to meet in order to get these aircraft. They had to build the infrastructure, train the pilots, who some of which didn't know English. They had to learn English. They had to learn the machines. They had to learn it on paper first before even getting inside. Then they had to train, whether it be in different kinds of modules or finally getting inside maybe a two-person F-16 so they can train inside of them before finally going off on their own. But one of the big things that Ukraine had to take care of is the Russian air defenses. Because it's one thing to have F-16s, but if you're unable to protect them from air defense systems that Russia has kind of spread out everywhere, then you have a bigger problem. And so when the United States finally started giving weapons back to Ukraine, one of the things that Ukraine had stated was, we need more ATACMS and long-range weapons so that we can go ahead and strike down certain targets. Those targets could be pretty much anything, but you have to remember, at that point, there was a lot of restrictions on what Ukraine could hit. Really, it was within the border from 2014. Then we started seeing permissions for Ukraine to be able to fire outside of that border, at least just northeast of Kharkiv. And then when that happened, we started seeing Ukraine strike other targets. And while there was officially no number on how many ATACMS and other weapons made their way to Ukraine, we know that Ukraine has a limited amount and they're using them to punch out all of the air defenses. Think of it from the point of view from the Ukrainians. If they want to go ahead and move from having ground support to air support, they have to make sure the skies are safe. Something that Zelensky talked about a year and a half ago. It is whoever owns the skies is owning the battlefield. And Ukraine has yet not owned the battlefield at all in the past, 2 years and 2 months or whatever it is at this date. These years kind of fly together. And so over the past 2 weeks, we've seen them hit air defense systems in Donbass and outside of Kharkiv, and then in Crimea, we've seen them hit a ton of them. I mean, just in the past week, we've seen 2 nights where they've taken out parts of S-300s and S-400s, which definitely leads to a lot of questions of, well, does it look like Ukraine might be heading towards Crimea first before then kind of going up? And that is definitely a possibility, especially if you see how much that they've destroyed over there between the Belbek Air Base, Sevastopol, and a couple other areas. It definitely showcases that Ukraine would want to take that coastline back, especially when Russia likes to launch things potentially from those areas. Now, the big question that I've been getting, though, is, well, if Ukraine has the ATACMS, which are, 300 miles or kilometers, why aren't they going after the Kerch Bridge? That's a good question. And the honest answer is, if you could potentially destroy something that will stop bombs from destroying your stuff, you'd rather want to take that out than just a bridge that is sitting there. We don't know how many of these bombs Ukraine has, these missiles. And so, once again, if you had to choose which way you would go, you would take down the air defense systems. Like right now, for example, it was just announced that Russia is bringing their only S-500 SAM. Okay, this is something that only came out in 2021. Russia has used it towards Moscow in a way. And Russia took their only one and brought it to Crimea. Okay, untested, this is its trial. If Ukraine can destroy this, which is supposed to be the best top-of-the-line air defense system in the entire world, okay? If Ukraine can destroy this, it will not only ruin Russia's morale, but it will prove that Ukraine can destroy pretty much any air defenses that Russia has. And as that S-500 comes in, I know I keep saying, hey, Ukraine, could you take this out like today? Like tomorrow, could we take it out now? It's objects like that need to be destroyed instead of a bridge. Because there are so many targets Ukraine could take care of. I mean, Russia has that massive rail line that goes from Russia and goes through Mariupol, goes all the way down into Crimea. And for the most part, Ukrainians are good at taking some of that out, but they know for a fact that Russia is going to have to get evacuated somehow, and they would rather start destroying things in Crimea and allow the Russians to retreat back to their country now, take their equipment, their families, everything out now, versus them having to be on foot and going block by block by block to liberate Crimea. But that's my personal opinion, it could be so many different things. The other thing I really want you to remember is Russia has a lot of really good planes. And I'm talking about like the Su-34s. Forget about the 57s. 57s aren't coming into Ukrainian airspace really, or even close enough to it. But look at the Su-34s. Russia's been using them for their guide bomb attacks, and it's been awful. It's one of those things where it's very hard to stop. But if Ukraine can take down the air defense systems, there would be no protection for the Su-34. If Ukraine could take down the air defense systems and have F-16s protecting the skies, then Russia won't be able to get as close as they are with their Su-34s to attack Ukrainian cities. So it goes back to my main point. Having these kinds of ATACMS and other long-range weapons, Storm Shadows, having very limited amounts, you're not going to go for the bridge. You're going to go for things that are protecting Russian assets. Destroy them. Things that are targeting Ukrainian assets. Destroy them. Because down the line, it's going to be easier in F-16s and better for Ukraine. And the only other thing I kind of want to add to this is the fact that, we all really truly want a delivery date for the F-16s. And I don't think we're officially going to get one. I think it's going to be one of those things where Ukraine's just going to do stuff and people are just going to assume. Like, I think we're done with the announcing of, we got this equipment, this is on the ground, this is on the ground, even though countries want to boast about it. I think Zelensky said it where he's just like, we need to stop telling Russia what we have and when we have it, because then Russia kind of learns and then changes their plans. And that's something that just needs to end. It's something that we don't need Russia to know what is going on. So, am I excited for F-16s? I am. By seeing these things being destroyed, it means we're definitely getting them, and we're getting them soon. I know we're within weeks, and so it also kind of makes it laugh a little bit, because you know that Ukraine's got some F-16s in reserves in other countries that we don't know about, which, they say are there in case there's maintenance or something needs to be moved, but I don't think that's the case. I think that there are some areas where it makes more sense to keep those aircraft in other countries, and that way Russia can't hit them. I know, it's a stretch. Maybe it's a little stretch. But I want to know what you think in the comment section below. Are you excited for F-16s? Are you excited to hopefully destroy the S-500? The only one that exists, I don't even know. It's funny, how bad does it have to be that Russia has to take their only S-500 out of Moscow and bring it down to Crimea? Now, we're told it's only components of it, which means maybe it's like half of a system. Keep in mind, they're integrated with the S-400s. So they kind of work out that way. And they're supposed to be able to knock down pretty much anything. I think it's, what we said, it was 600 kilometers by 200 kilometers at like 7 kilometers a second. But those are Russian inflated numbers that are just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, maybe that happened in one test. Maybe it happened for like 2 seconds and that was about it. But once again, let me know what you think in the comment section below and be sure to follow me for more.